You should be able to go ahead anytime now. The live stream is up and running.
Okay, good morning. Call the meeting to order. Is there anyone needing to be excused? I'm counting 9 of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we're all here. We review the minutes from April the 9th, which were circulated. Brian? Moves.
Motion to accept as circulated.
Thank you, Brian. Any discussion? All in favor? See lots of hands. That is passed. Are there any post-agenda items for MPC? Seeing none, can we have an adoption of the minutes? Ellen? Ellen moves. All in favor? Okay, looks like we're in business. To the business arising from the minutes, and who's handling that? Maria?
Hi, good morning. The first item that we have is there was a new ministerial order put out. And so from last meeting, MPC decided to table all permits and subdivisions until the ministerial order was amended or a new one was put out. And we have received one as of Friday afternoon, and that essentially resets the timelines back to normal. So everything that was in the MGA is the way we're going again. Any permits, which our county doesn't have any, so that's great, but any permits that were approved between the first ministerial order and this one now, April 17th will be the effective start of that timeline. So I think it's business as usual going forward.
Okay. So with that, we had a fact sheet question and answer session, most popular ones with COVID. And other than that, I think we would be ready to lift the tabled motion off the table. We could have a motion to do that. There's 3 subdivisions and 2 permits. Lionel moves. All in favor? That is passed. And we'll go on to subdivisions. And Lenz, are you with us?
I am, and good morning, everyone. So the first subdivision is 2020-0039. It's a residential subdivision just north of Rolling Hills. And the subdivision is recommended to be approved. It's to create 1 new parcel, approximately 3.08 acres in size, that contains an existing residence and a few improvements. And the subdivision has not been subdivided previously. The conditions are, the first one's the standard that all outstanding property taxes be paid. We have a second one that the owner enter into a development agreement if that's required, and that's probably more for access or for drainage type of issues at the access point. That's something for your staff to consider. The third condition is that the applicant install a septic tank and field in accordance with the requirements of the private sewage system standards in Alberta, and that they remove the existing pump out system and decommission it with proof coming back to the subdivision authority. The subdivision meets all the requirements of your municipal development plan, your land use bylaw, and your SSRP. We're satisfied that it's suitable for the purposes. However, there is one anomaly. we would require the subdivision authority with this approval to waive the 30.5 meter setback of the dugout to the property line. And the reason to grant that waiver is that no complaints have been received from adjacent landowners or comments. And the south and west property lines, they can't be adjusted to accommodate that setback. Other than that, your informative has a number of comments. Alberta Transportation waives their requirements, and I think we're ready to recommend approval.
Okay, are there any questions? Kelly?
Do county staff have any comments that in the informative?
No, I don't think we have any comments with regards to the conditions on this subdivision.
Oh,
Any other questions? Kelly?
I was willing to make a motion to approve
Okay, approved with the waiving.
with conditions as presented.
Okay. Any other further discussion? Oh, see some hands? Seeing no one opposed, that is passed. We'll move on to our second subdivision. Go ahead, Len.
Okay, great. Thank you again. This subdivision's a little more complicated, so you'll have to bear with me on this one. This is an agricultural and country residential subdivision at Lot 1, Block 3, just east of the town of Bassano. And the application is to reconfigure two existing titles by subdividing a 5.86 acre portion of Lot 1. And that contains an existing residence, and then consolidating the remaining 3.24 acre portion of the residual parcel to create a new agricultural parcel, approximately 91.01 acres in size. There is a pivot there, and there is a requirement, I guess, to realign some of the boundaries. There is reserve required at this point, so 10% reserve allocation is listed here. That would be on 5.86 acres, and it would be approximately $4,102. There are a number of conditions, outstanding taxes, development agreement for the installation of a new approach. Part of the approach enters into the property on EID land, and so it just needs some realignment. And then the driveway a little further on also meanders off the property onto EID easements as well. So there is a requirement to change the approach and also to get that access easement agreement for the driveway from the EID. Condition 4 is the controversial one. In your package, we received an informative from the town of Bassano. They have requested that an engineered drainage stormwater management plan be submitted to the subdivision authority to indicate drainage patterns and how runoff will be dealt with. We have had a meeting with your staff, or the EID, and the town of Bassano, and in those discussions, the administration of Newell felt that this requirement isn't something that they want to move forward on. So we would be recommending from County of Newell's standpoint that it be struck. However, because it wasn't informative and because it came from a neighboring municipality, we felt it important to at least put it in for you guys to decide on and discuss. The application does meet with all of the applicable statutory plans and your land use bylaw. What else can I tell you? think that's probably about it. The main issue was the town of Bassano and EID requirements. Thank you.
Are there questions? Brian?
So I guess the question revolves firstly around the town of Bassano stormwater drainage request. And I don't recall whether this was that we've ever asked for this on another previous subdivision. So I'm wondering why we would demand this for this particular one.
And I believe that's the gist of the conversation we had with administration and with the EID as well. Right, it's I guess the town of Bassano's position, as indicated in the informative, that they have some justification for asking for it. But perhaps Jeff can add some comments to that.
Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to touch a little bit on that question there and expand on it a little bit. So as I mentioned, we did have a couple of meetings to discuss this. There are clauses within the IDP with Bassano that talk about stormwater management plans and engineered design to control runoff and such. It does mention, they shall be provided to the subdivision authority on larger developments, I believe, and subdivisions. It is administration's thought that point and those points within the IDP are meant more for multi-lot developments, larger scale developments that are and do have the potential to create a greater amount of surface runoff. What's going on this current parcel right now, as Len's explained, is it's a property line realignment that the landowner is trying to become in line with policies set out by the EID for irrigation rights and areas on particular parcels. So Len's also mentioned that a pivot has been erected on site. So the whole reason for this subdivision is they're moving away from flood irrigation, which obviously we all know creates a lot more runoff and spill water into the drainage network than a pivot creates. So it's administration's opinion that this clause doesn't quite fit exactly with this subdivision and realignment of boundaries. It's meant for a different case scenario. I do not know of any time that we have requested a stormwater management plan for an agricultural subdivision such as this. So there's that. One other concern that I can bring up, if I can, is just with condition 3 that an easement for access to the EID canal right of way be signed off on, and maybe Lenz can comment further on this, but it looks to me like the EID's informative discusses that they would specifically like to see the access removed from the right of way. So I don't know if that's going to cause an issue down the road if we make that a condition and the EID is unwilling to sign that access easement. I just ask for consideration that maybe that condition reads something along the lines of the access and driveway will be removed from the EID right of way to their satisfaction. That makes it a little more workable for the landowners and EID to get to a agreeable solution. That's all for that, if anybody has any questions.
So Jeff, looking at the picture, it's the entryway, the access point of the EID property, and then it waves a little bit into the EID right away, a little bit down towards the bulk of the subdivision. So that is really not a big deal to move that, would it be? That seems quite reasonable.
Yeah, I think it's quite reasonable. I mean, probably the biggest cost of things is going to be the relocation of the approach to the county roadway, moving the culvert and so on and so forth, and getting that access, directly to the applicant's parcel. As for down the laneway where it meanders back and forth onto the EID right of way, I mean, yes, that could be solved by an easement agreement. I'm just concerned that if the EID does in fact want all access to that parcel to be removed, that they won't maybe sign an access easement agreement, and wondering how that falls in line with satisfying the conditions of the subdivision.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we want to keep condition 3 in there. And we want to chuck 4, is that correct? From staff?
I guess I would ask for Lenz's comment on how that condition could be finalized if the EID was unwilling to sign an access agreement. How that would work out in the end. That would be my only concern. I would prefer to see condition 3 say that the access and driveway are removed from the EID right of way to the satisfaction of the EID. And you know, they could sign off on whatever they felt comfortable with the applicant doing with that access.
Okay, and that's what I would, isn't that, maybe I have to read the number 3 again, but isn't that basically what's there now? That he has to have an agreement with the EID, or that he has to have his own access?
And I guess I just asked for clarification that condition 3 says that an access easement for access in the EID canal right-of-way shall be provided before the approval of the subdivision. However, the EID's response to the subdivision did mention access to the subdivision must be removed from the EID right-of-way. So I find it contradicts itself. It's either they move it off the right-of-way or they sign an access easement. And I'm just wondering how that would affect finalization of the subdivision if the EID would not be willing to sign that access agreement.
Okay, well, Lance, do you have some comments? And then after that, I'll go to Brian.
Yeah, I do. That particular condition is basically an option. And we can't really negotiate on behalf of the EID. They're going to have to determine what they want to do with the owner. And I know in their informative, they stated their preference is to have that completely removed. And that can be satisfied just with a letter from the EID that they're not willing to enter into that condition. And by default, they'd have to, the owner would have to realign that approach. So we could, I mean, you could add a thing in there that or one or the other, but essentially we take the condition is satisfied if the EID says they don't want to do it that way. But it still leaves the option open for the owner and the EID to negotiate, right? Because that's something that we don't do on their behalf.
Right. Brian?
Yeah, and I interpret that somewhat differently when I look at number 3, because it has the word shall in it, that an easement for access to the EID canal right-of-way shall be provided before final subdivision. The informative, when you go down to the EID's response on those, they have 5 points there. And the last point is the one that I'd like to insert there and remove 3. Access to the subdivision must be removed from the EID right-of-way. That's what the EID is saying. It's their right-of-way. I don't think the county, in my mind, has ever dictated to another authority how they have to, how the EID especially has to provide a right-of-way. So I would be more comfortable if we went forward that we would substitute what I just said on the EID informative on point 5 for number 3, and then remove 4 altogether.
Okay. Is that a motion, Brian?
Well, I'll make it after all the questions are asked, or somebody else can make it. But that's I can do that, but I'd rather hear the other questions because it might result in an amendment or something. So I'd rather wait the question and Q&A for.
Okay, we got Lionel.
I think just out of principle, we should try not to approve any subdivisions that require easements on somebody else's property. I think in this case, we can easily go around the other property. And so I would not be in favor of an easement.
You know, we've always been very reluctant to give easements or look for easements as a solution. So, but there are some. Further questions? comments? If not, then I would ask for a motion. Brian?
Okay, I'll make that motion, and I just want to be clear that we substituted that fifth point, EID made for number 3, and we've removed number 4 for the conditions.
Okay. Any questions on that? Any lack of understanding? Now,
Yes, I'm just wondering, Brian, where your number 5 point is under the informative. I can't find it.
You have to go down quite a ways to where it says Eastern Irrigation District, Stacy Connaughton Land Administrator, and then there's 5. That's under I, and if you go down, there's 5 points. The very last one says access to the subdivision must be removed from the EID right away. Does that help? Okay, thanks.
any further clarification? Everyone's ready to vote? Then I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that is passed. We'll go on to the third one, please, Len.
Okay, we'll make those changes and then email that resolution out.
Thank you.
What's the next one here? 29. Gotta get ordered here.
It would be,
sorry?
it'll be 037, ending in 037. To create one new parcel approximately 5.2 acres.
Okay, got that one. Okay, this is a country residential subdivision, and it's to create one parcel of approximately 5.2 acres in size. And the only condition is that that outstanding property taxes be paid. Everything else is fairly straightforward. The county did have a few comments in the informative. There is a dugout that's located within the setbacks as well, so there will be a waiver required for that. And other than that, there's no concerns from any of the other referral agencies.
I've got a note here that there was a few buildings within. Is that correct, or am I?
Yeah, sorry, there is an existing residence and there are some improvements as well. My information is that there's a number of sort of sheds and outbuildings on the property, and most of them are in various states of repair, and some of them do fall fairly close to the subdivision or to the boundary lines. And it is, again, on a pivot circle on a corner.
Okay, any other questions? Anne-Marie?
I'm willing to make the motion with the waivers for the dugout and the buildings. The buildings are, smaller items. I don't see an issue there.
Okay. Further discussion, questions, clarifications? If not, I'm going to ask for the vote. All in favor? That is passed. Going on to the last subdivision.
Okay, and that one's 2020-0-029. This one did require a extension before the meeting. Unfortunately, the applicant did not send it back in. We mailed it out to him or emailed it to him on Monday of this week and asked for it to be returned because it does expire on Monday and it needs to have an extension. So perhaps we should deal with the extension first, even though it's not here retroactively. We can maybe deal with that.
Okay, we just have to make a motion to have an extension, is that correct?
Yes. Unfortunately, though, we do need the applicant to ask for that extension, but he hasn't provided it yet. And we contacted him yesterday by phone, and he said he was going to have it to us, but it hasn't arrived up until now. And I know these are extenuating circumstances too, so perhaps in like retroactively, if you grant the extension, we can move forward when it does come in, and if it doesn't, then it's a moot point. We just don't move forward.
So we approve it with the sort of a condition that we a request for an extension. Is that kind of what we're doing?
Yes, yes. Otherwise, we'd have to table it again for another 2 weeks.
Can I have some opinions on this from staff? Brian? Do you have a comment?
I'd actually like to have staff's opinion too, but I guess I wondered if we don't have the comments from the applicant, I'd be willing to make a motion to table for another 2 weeks, but maybe I'm not understanding it completely. I guess I have questions as far as the configuration and that.
Okay.
Hi. Sorry, we weren't read in on this, so I apologize that I don't have any exact information, but it's my understanding that an extension request is for if the subdivision is at its expiry date after a year, and there's a fee for an extension of $330. So, and Lenz, hopefully you can help me out here, but the subdivision is not at its expiry, is that correct? So I'm thinking we could table the decision so that we could get the information, or will we be within the 60 days?
No, the 60 days expired on Monday.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why he needs to provide an extension to his application, which he's, from what we've spoken to him, and he was willing to do that. We just haven't received that from him yet.
Jeff, you had your hand up?
Yeah, this subdivision, I would recommend, discussions have happened, no formal request has come in, no payment has been received. I would suggest we table this for 2 weeks until the next MPC meeting. Deal with it at that time, or Lenz, did the applicant have any comments for a time crunch that he was really under? I mean,
there's no time crunch. It was just because of the nature of this subdivision and the request to go to the Water Act to deal with the creeks and things like that, pushed it further. And then with the COVID stuff, it just got pushed further. There wouldn't be any fee associated with this because it's not a time extension after the year that we're dealing with. It's that the application itself went over the 60-day period.
Okay.
To a variety of circumstances, but tabling it would be fine until we receive that request from them, because there may be other information with it. Either way works.
Okay, and I think probably there's really no, since it's extraordinary circumstances, there's no need for extra fees or anything. It's just a matter of all getting their ducks in a row.
Yeah.
Jeff nodding.
yeah, I agree.
Okay. Lionel?
I would make the motion for an extension and let's move on.
Make a motion for tabling, Lionel.
Or tabling, I'm sorry. Tabling, not extension. Yes.
Right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, we'll move on. This is tabled.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We'll move to the development permits, and we'll start off with the 005, one with the bulk fertilizer.
Development permit 2020005 is for the operation of a bulk fertilizer storage and sales business. The applicant obtained a land use amendment on March 19th, 2020 to change the business portion of the parcel of land from agricultural to rural business. The business is storing and blending dry fertilizer for sale and liquid fertilizer storage and sale. The business will serve the agricultural operations in the area. The fertilizer does not contain andronious ammonia. The business will operate with one resident employee and one non-resident employee. There's a few structures in that'll be used with the operation. There is one shop 1 that was built in 1995 that he is requesting a variance to the setback, a 35-foot variance, bringing the 100 feet down to 65. There was no issues from staff. There was no response from adjacent landowners, and we're recommending approval with conditions.
Okay. Questions? Seeing none, I will ask the question. All in favor with including the variance?
You need a motion first.
Okay, that is correct. Thank you. Just doing this through a picture is kind of funny. Okay, is that a motion? Are you willing to make that motion, Anne-Marie? Yes?
I will.
Okay. All in favor? Thank you. That is passed. Going on to 202-0007.
Development 2020007 is to construct a single-family dwelling with an attached garage and a deck to be used as the second dwelling. The applicant is not requesting any variances. The application is a replacement dwelling. There is already a second dwelling on the parcel that was constructed in approximately 1920, which the landowner will remove to construct their new dwelling. There was no issues or concerns from staff. There was no response from adjacent landowners. And Mr. Wienick is in the meeting, so he can answer any questions.
So Adam, go ahead.
No, not really. My house is too small and I got 5 kids.
That does explain quite a bit. Any questions? All pretty straightforward. Alan?
A motion to approve?
Okay, Alan moves. I saw somebody else's hand up. Were there questions? Or was that Tracy? Did you? No, just, okay, Alan moves. Any further discussion? All in favor? See lots of hands. Any opposed? That is passed. Going on to the third one, 009. Are you with us, Maria?
Oh.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute us here in this room. We'll have to start.
Oh, you guys are having your own meeting. All right.
We were discussing it.
Yeah. Okay, 2020009 and 010 are for the same parcel of land, the same landowner. 009 is an application for the approval of an existing deck, an existing addition, and construction of a new addition with an attached garage. The existing dwelling was approved in 1994. There was no development permit for the other addition and the deck. There are 2 existing sheds on the parcel, which will be reviewed on 2020010, which also require a variance. The applicant is requiring a 13-foot variance for the addition to the dwelling, bringing the setback from 50 feet down to 37.
The applicant has provided a letter which would apply to both permits on why they are requesting the variance, but the main reason specifically is the slope of the land. There was no issues with staff. There was no response from adjacent landowner, and we're recommending approval with conditions.
Okay, are you talking to both, Maria? Or are you going?
Yes, I am. Well,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. We'll vote individually, but questions can be for both then, if there are.
Okay.
No one has any questions? We will deal with 202009 first. All in favor? Opposed?
You need a motion first.
Oh, again, right.
I'll move.
Thanks, Molly. Moved 009. We will now have a vote again. All in favor? I see no one opposed. That is then passed. I need a motion for the second one here, 0010. UB moves. Any further discussion? All in favor? See some hands. Any opposed? Seeing none, it is passed. Are there any post-agenda items? And Cameron, are there any questions? For question? Yes, Tracy?
I just had a question. I had a question in regards to one of our organizations now that we contact is Canada Post. And when did that come into play? Like, is it because they have to approve that there would be an address there, or can maybe staff can answer?
Well, I can't. So, Jeff, Kevin?
Are you referring to referrals for the subdivisions or the discretionary use permits? Subdivisions?
Yeah, I think they were mostly in the subdivisions that I seen that it was, they were one of the referral agencies.
Yeah, Lens, would you be able to provide any information if that's been a recent change or anything along those lines?
No, in general, when we have a subdivision that creates new parcels and they require new addressing, Canada Post gets referred for that. Right, because they have addressing standards, and so they, it's just a courtesy, basically. They're not going to stop something, but it's just more for information if they want to, look at how it's addressed or assign addressing for mail delivery.
Okay. Okay, Trace, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just was curious. We've never seen that in our documentation before, so I was just curious as to why now it's part of the documentation we're receiving. That's all. Just curious about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can follow up a little more and see too why it wasn't there before. That's my understanding. Okay.
Anything else? Seeing none, thank you, everyone. I will adjourn the meeting, and we'll see you on the other side of the council.